Hey, if you like what you see, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that noti bell because it really helps out. There are few things more soul-draining than investing your time and emotional energy into a story that promises growth, connection, and catharsis, only to realize it's as hollow as an empty vending machine. Rent-A-Girlfriend is one of the most baffling examples of wasted potential in modern romance anime. A series so frustratingly directionless, so caught up in its own artificially extended drama loops that watching it feels like engaging within the narrative and more like slowly drowning in a puddle of mediocrity. It presents itself as a quirky romantic drama with an intriguing premise, the idea of renting a girlfriend to recover from heartbreak. But what starts as a mildly novel hook nosedives into an endless parade of shallow character interactions, paper-thin stakes, and emotional development that either rewinds or never actually happens at all. As someone who has seen dozens of romance anime, from tearjerkers like Tsukigakure to comedic gems like Suradura Children, and masterpieces like Horimiya and Dangers in My Heart, I can confidently say that Rent-A-Girlfriend stands alone as the most aggressively pointless one I have ever encountered. The show's biggest crime isn't just being bad, it's being monumentally unambitious, with Kazuya, the main character, caught in the same pit of self-pity, cowardice, and emotional maturity that he started in. Rather than learning, growing, or at the very least realizing the consequences of his choices, he remains shackled to the same awkward love triangle, or quadrangle, pentagon, depending on the arc, with the emotional intelligence of a soggy wet napkin. The series makes a bold move of constantly teasing major character progress or emotional breakthroughs, only to immediately reverse them in favor of maintaining the status quo. It doesn't build tension, it milks time. And while it's fair for any romance anime to feature slow progress, there has to be progress. With Rent-A-Girlfriend, you end up watching 20 episodes only to realize you could have skipped the entire show and still missed absolutely nothing. It's rare that a romance anime makes me feel less connected to its characters the longer I watch it, but this series pulls it off spectacularly. What's worse is that Rent-A-Girlfriend is deeply aware of what it's doing. It leans into melodrama and emotionally manipulative cliffhangers to mask the fact that nothing meaningful is ever actually at stake. There's no payoff, no thematic depth, and certainly no characters you walk away caring about. For a genre built on emotional connection and narrative payoff, this show is a slap in the face to anyone hoping for either. Instead of building upon authentic relationships or exploring human vulnerability, it squanders every opportunity to say something genuine in favor of recycling tired tropes with characters that refuse to grow. As someone who truly values what romance anime can achieve when it's honest, daring, and emotionally resonant, I find it genuinely depressing that Rent-A-Girlfriend continues to receive attention while other, vastly superior stories are left in the shadows. Out of all the countless romance anime I have watched, this is the only one that managed to make me feel like my time, and maybe even my affection for the genre, was actively being insulted. In a genre brimming with flawed but endearing leads who grow and evolve through trials of the heart, Kazuya Kinoshita stands as an anomaly, a protagonist so stagnant, so mind-numbingly pitiful that he drags the entire narrative down with him like a stone tied to a drowning swimmer. From the very first episode, Kazuya is defined by his insecurity, which is fine. Great protagonists often begin from a place of vulnerability, but Rent-A-Girlfriend mistakes pathetic self-loathing for compelling characterization. Kazuya doesn't evolve, doesn't reflect, and barely functions as an emotionally mature human being. He is a man-child who lies, simps, backpedals, cries, overreacts, makes the same mistakes over and over again, and wallows in his own mediocrity while dragging viewers through his endless loop of self-sabotage. It's like watching someone slam their head against a wall repeatedly and calling it development. Watching him exist is exhausting. Watching him be the emotional center of a romance anime is maddening. Unlike protagonists such as Hachiman from Origaru, which begins cynical and self-isolated but gradually uncovers the vulnerability behind others' facades, and his own, Kazuya never strives for anything beyond temporary comfort. He hires a rental girlfriend, Chizuru Mizuhara, to help him cope with a breakup, and rather than using that moment as a springboard for internal change and emotional self-awareness, he buries himself in a lie that spirals into more lies, more awkwardness, and more forced proximity that somehow never matures into anything meaningful. he becomes addicted to the illusion, not of love, but of emotional hand-holding. Kazuya is the embodiment of a protagonist designed to never change, no matter how many opportunities the story throws his way. Even when the narrative practically yells in his face to get his act together, he stumbles right back into being the same spineless wreck he was in episode 1. It is not endearing, it is unbearable. What perhaps most insulting is that the show tries, over and over again, to paint Kazuya as this underdog worth rooting for. He cries in hallways, has internal monologues about his feelings, and goes on random bursts of simulated courage, but none of it ever feels earned. The reason is simple. The show doesn't allow real consequences or lasting lessons to shape him. He resets after every arc, after every near confession, after every moment of clarity. It's like romantic Groundhog Day with none of the charm or growth. And in a romance anime, your protagonist has to be emotionally engaging. Not perfect, but human in a way that inspires either empathy or investment. Kazuya inspires neither of those things. Watching him fumble through relationships is less like witnessing the messing of young love, and more like being held hostage by a character who's allergic to growth. It's no wonder that even within the story, the most interesting developments usually happen around him. Not because of him. He is not just a bad protagonist, he is a void, actively sucking the energy and momentum out of every scene he's in. There's a specific threshold that the series crosses when it stops being just disappointing and becomes outright embarrassing, and for Rent-A-Girlfriend, that moment came crashing down in the utterly infamous chapter 218. A chapter that should live in infamy for every romance anime and manga fan who's ever dared to hope that a series might finally grow up, even just a little. In this monumentally grotesque display of narrative self-destruction, we're treated to a manga panel so juvenile, so mind-numbingly tone-deaf, it feels like a fever dream cooked up in a parody doujin. Kazuya, our ever-inept and pathetic protagonist, imagines the heroine, Chizuru, with another man, and proceeds to literally in his pants from the thought. Yes, you read that correctly, not metaphorically, not exaggeratedly, it's drawn, it's inked, it's canon. And in that single image, any lingering hope that Rent-A-Girlfriend might one day become a decent romance anime gets flushed down the most disgusting of toilets. It's not just a disturbing panel, it's the purest distillation of everything wrong with this series. Kazuya has gone beyond pathetic, beyond cringe, and entered the realm of pure unfiltered cuckold fantasy. One so jarringly off-tone and ridiculous that it makes the series impossible to take seriously ever again. And yes, let's call it what it is. Rent-A-Girlfriend, more like Cuck Your Protagonist. Instead of a meaningful look at love, jealousy, or emotional vulnerability, we are served a panel that reduces every ounce of character depth into a puddle of pure hormonal nonsense. It's not even comedic, it's not shocking in a clever way, it's just embarrassing. Not only for Kazuya, not only for the story, but for anyone who's followed this series thinking there might be something worthwhile waiting at the end of this disgusting, despicable tunnel. That panel is the tunnel. It's the dead end that reveals the truth. There is no meaningful destination, only the slow, squelching crawl through a narrative that has long since stopped pretending to be about actual romance. Chapter 218 is the kind of moment that breaks fans, not because it's edgy or controversial, but because it makes you retroactively realize that the emotional stakes have never been real. All the drama, the longing stares, the love triangles, the moments of closeness, they are hollow set pieces for a protagonist whose arc is defined by erotic humiliation and emotional paralysis. After over 200 chapters of slow burn nonsense, that panel obliterates any illusion of dignity this series may have had left. And the worst part is the story doesn't even address it in any meaningful way afterward. It just shrugs and moves on like nothing happened, which might be the most damning indictment of all. Chapter 218 isn't just a low point, it's the death certificate of Rent-A-Girlfriend as a legitimate entry into the romance anime genre. It's the final nail in the coffin, vulgar, tasteless, and self-inflicted, of a story that started with a halfway decent concept and decided, chapter after chapter, to strangle it to death with the world's limpest narrative arc ever put to paper and screen. To truly grasp the depth of Rent-A-Girlfriend's failures, you only need to watch literally any competent romance anime to realize how absurdly low this series has set the bar, and then proceeds to trip over it again and again. It's not a high standard to expect emotional growth, honest communication, or a basic understanding of chemistry between characters. And yet, Rent-a-Girlfriend misses all of it while its peers deliver far more compelling stories in a fraction of the time. Look at Horimiya, for example. A series that doesn't just waste 20 episodes on will they won't they shenanigans. Instead, it builds a relationship quickly and spends most of its runtime exploring the emotional depth after the confession. The joy in Horimiya isn't just watching a couple get together, it's watching two people learn how to stay together by understanding each other's flaws, family struggles, insecurities, and inner worlds. It's mature, it's rewarding, and most importantly, it respects the audience's intelligence. Then there's Dangers in My Heart, a series that takes what could have been a gimmicky edgelord premise and transforms it into one of the most heartwarming slow burn romances in recent memory. Kyotaro and Anna begin with a strange but genuine curiosity towards one another, and over time they peel back the layers of vulnerability, awkwardness, and affection. Every gesture feels earned. Every bit of progress feels like a tiny miracle, the kind you can only find in an adolescent's first love when everything feels intense and sincere. The narrative never stoops to humiliating its characters for cheap laughs or fetishistic awkwardness. Instead, it finds charm in its empathy, showing how love often starts with the smallest acts of kindness and recognition. You walk away from the Dangers in My Heart feeling like you've witnessed something pure, something honest. You watch Rent-a-Girlfriend and you walk away wondering why you ever gave it your time to begin with, or why its protagonist seems more in love with humiliation than the girl he supposedly cherishes. Compare that to a masterpiece of brevity and emotional precision like Soraidore Children, a series that juggles multiple couples in tight, short episodes, and yet manages to convey more real development in a single 5-minute scene than Rent-a-Girlfriend does in its entire runtime and seasons. Every couple in this anime has their own unique dynamic, from painfully shy confessions to fiery love-hate banter, but what unites them is a shared sense of forward momentum, and if you want pure emotional resonance, nothing hits like Tsukiga Kirei. It's quiet, it's slow, but every single moment is soaked in authenticity. From the characters texting each other nervously under the covers to silent blushes exchanged in passing glances, it captures the way young love feels when everything is overwhelming and new and fragile. It doesn't need to resort to cheap fan service, wild antics, or humiliating its leads to keep you interested. It just trusts that the audience is emotionally literate enough to connect with something soft and true. The bottom line is this: the romance genre is not starved for quality. If you're looking for stories that deliver genuine emotion, compelling character arcs, and actual resolution and romance, you are spoiled for choice. Rent-a-Girlfriend doesn't just pale in comparison, it practically spits in the face of what makes those other shows work so seamlessly. It drags its feet, refuses growth, and wears humiliation like a badge of honor, while series like Horimiya, The Dangers in My Heart, Soraidore Children, and Tsukiga Kirei are busy giving us something to feel, something to remember, and something to root for. Rent-a-Girlfriend is busy giving us a protagonist who orgasms at the thought of being cucked. And if that's not the clearest indicator of how far it's fallen, or maybe where it always intended to crawl, then nothing ever will be. After wading through the murky depths of Rent-a-Girlfriend, it becomes painfully clear why this series is not just disappointing, but an outright insult to the romance genre. From a protagonist who embodies stagnation and pathetic self-pity to narrative choices that range from cringeworthy to outright disgusting, looking at you, Chapter 218, the series fails on nearly every conceivable level. It's not simply a bad romance anime, it's a hollow shell that trades genuine emotional storytelling for repetitive cycles of humiliation, jealousy, and awkward fan service. When the main character's defining moment involves literal visual depictions of cuckold fantasies, you know the story's priorities are irreparably askew. But in a landscape rich with thoughtful, heartfelt, and often hilarious takes on young love, Rent-a-Girlfriend stands out, but only as a cautionary tale of how not to write a romance. What makes this failure even more frustrating is how it highlights the brilliance of other anime that respect their characters and their audience. They give their characters space to be human, flawed, shy, brave, and hopeful, and they reward viewers with stories that linger long after the credits have rolled. In stark contrast, Rent-a-Girlfriend continually refuses to evolve past tired tropes and degrading scenes that reduce complex emotions to crude spectacle. It's a series that actively wastes the time of anyone foolish enough to keep watching in hopes of something better. In the end, Rent a Girlfriend isn't just an unworthy romance anime, it's a glaring reminder that not every popular series deserves your attention or investment. The anime world is overflowing with stories that understand the nuances of love and relationships, stories that bring joy, insight, and catharsis. This series, however, wallows in cynicism and stagnation, with a protagonist who symbolizes everything that's wrong with dragging out a narrative without meaningful progression. For anyone serious about the romance genre, or for those who want to avoid the endless pit of frustration and disappointment that Rent a Girlfriend represents and has become, there are countless superior alternatives. So do yourself a favor, skip the cringe, dodge the cuckoldry, and dive into the shows that actually make love worth watching.